How to add textures to an image in Photoshop very quickly, PC or Mac. In Photoshop, you can add texture to any image or parts of image by going to Filter, and then Filter Gallery, and then down to Texture, and then Texturizer. Select that, and now you've got a texture. By default, you'll have a number of textures. There's 4: brick, burlap, canvas, and sandstone. But you can also add another texture. Go down here and select the current one, or click here and then load texture. So load texture, and that will add a file. It needs to be a PSD file. So if you've got PNG, JPEG, you'll have to convert them first to a PSD file. And I'm just going to select one. So I'm just going to select this one. And you can find these on the Graphicxtras website. They're a free set of texture designs you can download and use in all kinds of ways. What you can then do is modify the scaling, and you can also modify the relief as well. So you can see then you get a much more intense design, or maybe reduce it down so it's a very subtle texture. Also, you can modify the light direction. Unfortunately, there's no direction control. So what you can do, right or left, etc. And also you can invert it to get something like that. And then once you're happy with it, click OK. And now you can see the texture has been applied to the entire image. In this case, it's been added as a smart object. This is a smart object. You can create it via layer and smart objects and convert to smart object. Really useful. As a smart object means you can add effects, loads more effects, and you can modify them at any point. So it's always a good idea when you've got an image to do convert to smart object. So with that, you can then apply textures again and again and again. But I want to apply it just to the background. So select and subject. So select and subject, that will select this. What I want is now select and then inverse. I want this background. Now it's a smart object. You can see it's indicated as a smart object there. Then you go to filter and then down to filter gallery. And in filter gallery, you get this. Now it doesn't show, unfortunately, particularly well unless you drag it over like that. You can see it's quite a big image, and you can see the background there with that texture now added. So it creates a much more interesting background instead of just a blank grey background. And then you can modify all the various reliefs, scaling. Now you can add multiple textures to this within the actual tool itself. Personally, I prefer to use smart objects and smart filters. So click OK. You can apply it again. You don't have to, of course, use the same one. So when you go in there, you can go and select a different file. So filter and filter gallery again. And this time, go down here, and instead of this one, you can select another one. So load texture. And once you've got that, you've got, say, this PSD as well. So load. And now you've added a structure on top of that original one, which means literally infinite amount of textures can be combined to create all kinds of amazing scratchy designs, sort of lovely mottled designs like that. And again, you can modify various things, the relief. These are independent of the other one, so you can change that, as well as top left and so on, to create, again, multiple different texture designs. And then click OK. Now you've got that. Now you will see, because the file is fairly small, there is, of course, a repeating pattern there. And you can, of course, apply various blurring effects to modify it slightly. One of the ones I use, filter, and go down to stylize and oil paint. In oil paint, you get this effect. It creates a lovely smearing effect, especially if you set the values fairly high. You can also use lighting as well to create some interesting combinations, as well as change the angle to create different effects there. Just turn that off and then click OK. And that smears it, creating, I think, probably a slightly better design than before. Also, you can always use oil paint again a couple of times to smear it even more. And of course, then, if you wish, you can always add filter gallery on top of that as well.